That's totally okay. As far as I'm concerned, what's said here, what's recorded here, doesn't belong to anybody in particular. Yeah, I mean, my whole purpose in doing this was just to bring as many perspectives together as possible, just kind of encapsulate it in one, maybe 45-minute broadcast, and just get a good cross section of everybody's idea of what's wrong and what the solutions are.
I'm getting paid for this, right?
Yeah, your check's in the mail, Harms. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So we might as well just okay, so we're not getting Shade, so we might as well just start.
He just left ARC, so I can only assume that means he's joining us relatively.
Oh, does he know what the hell he's saying? Like, does he know the questions?
Well,
is there Shade? Hi, Shade.
Hey.
Aloha.
I told them, they're like, where's Shade? I was like, he's probably taming something. Hang on.
All right. So, Shade, you know the questions? You know what you're going to say?
Oh, yeah, I do. Pretty simple.
Oh. Okay, fair enough. Good.
Should
so
we go top to bottom on the list?
I've got a list in front of me here. All right, so we'll just get started. So I cut in here. Hello and welcome to the Dumpster Fire. Today we have a large group of guests from all different play styles with many different viewpoints, many different takes on the game itself. Everybody here plays Worlds Adrift. They are each leaders in their respective communities. They have a lot to say, and this is not a safe space, nor is it an echo chamber. Not everybody here likes each other. However, everyone agreed to come here to discuss just what's gone wrong with Worlds Adrift and to bring their unique solutions to the table. So we're addressing 3 questions today. Our first question is, what do you want from Worlds Adrift? What kind of gameplay experience are you really looking for? Sarah Moore, we're going to start with you.
All right, it's supposed to be a mix of Skyrest and DayZ, all right? So what the whole thing is hardcore. It has been from the start. It's all about having a whole experience where anything can happen. Anybody can kill you. You can kill anybody. And it would be great if there was just territory control and voice over IP. And that's what I want out of it. Thank you.
All right, fair enough. Dimes, you're up next.
For me, I want the game to be the amazing sandbox it is and is capable of being. To play it how my crew and I want to play it, to pillage, to build, to explore, and to design. For me, VoIP is a pretty big thing for that pillage.
All right, you cut out there for a second.
What part did I cut out at?
Let's see. Big part of the design, and then we lost you.
Pillaging, and it kind of stopped. I don't know if that was the end, but it kind of cut out.
I think we got the idea, though.
To pillage, to build, to explore, and to design was the end of that.
Got it. All right. Harms, you're next.
For me, it's all about PvP-related action and activities. I enjoy exploring, traveling, meeting people, but in the end, I'm here for the PvP. Building PvP ships, rolling PvP gear, and having epic lag-free PvP battles.
Fair enough. Floshko?
What do I want from Worlds Adrift? I would like to RP a little bit, you know. Also, engage in a lot of PvP, and I would really like for the black female character to have a larger butt. As far as the gameplay experience goes, we need things to bring people together and fight over them.
All right, fair enough. Okay, Snappy Texas.
Yeah, so when I started playing the game, I came in with a pretty PvE mindset and ended up transitioning much more over to the PvP side of things. What I really want is a game where both playstyles are welcome and the transition from one to another and vice versa is easy. I want something that is high risk, but at the end of the day, what I want most is emerging gameplay.
Great. Machine Maker.
Really, I'm looking for. I love all the parts about the game, and I'll do. I started out PvE as well, but I transitioned more to PvP. But I love the exploring. And I'm pretty much looking to do anything in the game as long as it's with other people. I love the multiplayer aspect VoIP is often talked about. That's a big part for me. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great.
Oh, by the way, I don't really care about VoIP.
Good to know, Blasco. All right, Shade.
I actually, what I would like from the game in the long run is for the widest variety of play styles to have what they need to enjoy playing the game for the longest period of time. I enjoy the way the game is set up now, with the exception, of course, of the things that are unfinished and the bugs that make and performance issues that make PvP difficult. But yeah, my focus on it is just let's get as many people enjoying it as much as they can.
Fantastic. All right. And we had an answer from Anne. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here. But she was looking for a game with exploration, socializing, and building. And she has that in the Worlds of Drift. She seems to be happy with what she's getting. All right. So next up, we have Med. Med, could you tell us what you wanted to get out of this game?
Certainly. Over time, my view of the game has evolved, but it's always come back to a post-apocalypse civilization, like the whole of humanity waking up on these floating islands. There would be a lot more cooperation. I don't know if it's the marketing, the types of people that are drawn to this kind of sandbox, to the open PvP, but you have a higher percentage of the ruthless types compared to society at large. So the whole post-apocalyptic civilization just isn't there. And that's part of they're lacking the end game. They're lacking the sense of permanence.
So like the PvE end game is what you're saying.
Well, it could even be PvP as well, like the island and sector alliance control. That could give a sense of permanence, and it's a pseudo civilization. It's people coming together to generate something greater.
Basically,
just don't have that right
end
now.
of the loop is what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
All
Finish
right.
the gameplay loop.
Okay, good. So we're going to get into that for sure, and to questions 2 and 3 here. So here, let's get into the meat of the discussion. All right. Question 2 is: what are the worst problems with Worlds of Drift right now, and why do you think the game has suffered in terms of player population and reputation? Harms, I think we're going to start with you.
All right. For me, that is communication, plain and simple, just communication. Yeah, this game has a lot of bugs, but if we had better communication on the progress of fixing them, I think we'd be more comfortable with them. There's a lot of lacking features, but if we knew the progress on when they're going to be out or where we're at with them, we'd be eager for them instead of being annoyed by them. I know we have a roadmap, but I feel like it's severely lacking. I think what we need is GPS. We need the details of what's happening. The game was sold as a community crafted game, but the last time a boss employee responded to an idea in the feedback and suggestion forum was either so long ago that I can't find an example, or never. The only one I can find is the one complaining about the lack of communication. Over a week ago, Strite asked for feedback on players from ship part stats. There have been 13 responses to that, and Bossa hasn't replied to a single one of them. You need to let people know that you see their ideas. Let them know that you think they're cool, or if they won't work. Let them know if you plan to chase those ideas, or if it's something that's just not feasible. And for the love of God, just keep us updated. I honestly feel like Bossa ignores its community, and it's the single most obvious reason the game is suffering.
Understood. Thank you very much. Machine Maker, we're going to hear from you next.
Well, Harms covered pretty much all of it on like the developer side of what's wrong with World of Drift. So I want to talk about like in the game. I mean, it's like performance. Like I love doing things with other people, and if you've got more than like 4 ships in one area, it's hard to play the game for me. And I got a decent computer and decent internet, and it still just gets, just laggy and super bad frames. And you definitely can't have a PvP battle with like 5 ships of like an enjoyable PvP battle, in my opinion. So like performance is definitely one of the biggest things that's wrong with the game for me.
Understood.
And that's definitely, I think, why people who enjoy playing with lots of other ships, they think, well, this game is just so laggy, I can't play, and so they stop playing.
Excellent. All right, Sarah Moore, let's hear from you next.
Okay, I don't think performance is a problem at all. There have been a ton of games over the years, DayZ most importantly, where they have ran like complete fucking shit. But because they're based on a great fucking idea, it turns into something that's a goddamn sensation and a shitload of people are into. No, the main problem is marketing, where Med Unit Zero is completely fucking wrong because they have not in any way marketed this game to be a PvP experience. If you go to the main webpage, the first thing you see is explore, build, unite, survive. It sounds like this happy little jaunt. There's no reference to how brutal and awful and horrible and Rust-like in the full fucking murder this game can be, that nobody even knows it's going to be like that in the first place. When I first played it, I thought it was going to be this like silly little, happy adventure. I had no idea I could fucking kill everybody I wanted to. When I found out I could, I was very happy. But there was like a very good chance I never would have even stumbled upon this game, and I'd be missing out on an experience that I would fucking love, that I think a shitload of people, like the Rust fans, the Days fans, would fucking love, but they just don't know what's out there. They need to market towards the combat environment because there is no PvE gameplay. Killing mantas is not PvE. Collecting shit is just collecting shit. It's not compelling in the long term. So they got to find their audience.
All right, understood. Thank you very much. I think we'll hear from, since you referenced him directly, I think we're going to hear from Med next on this, because I'd like to hear the two opposing viewpoints here.
Okay. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that, Sarah Moore. It is, well, whether the marketing aspect, I don't really care about that. But yeah, the servers, the way they run right now is absolute garbage. It is. I had a single little tier 3 ship last night just trying to do loops around one island, and I had to throttle it back because of the loading and the issues with it. The network issues that they have right now are tremendous, and that more than anything needs to be tackled. I had another part to this about the permanence and the end game loop, but I already addressed that in question 1.
Okay, fair enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the floor here because there's an interesting question that's come up. I've seen marketing for the game kind of go both ways. But in your experience, and I'm asking everybody in the channel here, in your experience, has the game been marketed more as a peaceful explore and build, create a civilization, Minecraft-y kind of thing? Or has it been marketed to you more as a, Rust in the sky, PvP, fight each other kind of experience?
Initially, I wouldn't even use Minecraft as a suitable example to compare it to. I would say it's more like Lily, Child of Geos, or playing with your Barbie doll.
Fine. I mean, but really though, I mean, the marketing that you have absorbed, what is it told you about what the game's supposed to be?
The game has changed over time with what they're trying to sell. Originally, I think this game was absolutely hardcore PvP, lose everything when you die, good luck, be tougher.
Yes.
But recently, ever since Kirk released the PvP versus griefing post, I think they've started trying to change it for a different audience. But the old audience is still here.
Yeah. So initially, it was definitely that hardcore mentality. And then when they went into early access, it was, that explore, build, unite, and then survive was like a very minor thing. And mantas are just kind of, an annoyance, not really a problem.
Yeah, it used to be kind of intense.
I do video editing for a living. So I was looking at the older videos when I started a year and a half ago, and that seemed to me to be a sandbox that included some conflict, but there wasn't much. More recently, around the open beta release, they changed that. They made a much better video, in my opinion, that showed much more violence in the game, but still had a sandbox feel. That to me, marketing is difficult for Bossa for this game because it is a sandbox, and by nature of being a sandbox, the players really put their interpretation on what they think the game should be. Whether it actually is or not is up to the players.
Fair enough. All right, so we're still on question 2 here. So let's hand it over to Snappy Texas for his answer.
So I think Harms made some really, really great points there. I'm going to disagree pretty vehemently with Saramore. Not so much on the marketing side of things, although I think I would probably disagree to some extent there too. But I would say that the performance is absolutely a problem, because it's something that consistently, happens. There's degradation of performance, and every time that happens, leading up to a wipe or leading into nowhere. We don't know if there's, when the wipe is coming or whatever, but every time it gets to this point, you see even the most hardcore players start to drop off, and the player base diminishes. So I think the player loss is probably the biggest thing, and that goes hand in hand with performance and bugs, particularly things like exploits. I think it's really interesting that so much, if we had been talking about this, pre-PvE server, there would probably be some voices, maybe not necessarily so much from this particular group, but certainly in the community at large, saying that, the like differentiation between PvE and PvP play styles is a huge part of what drives people away, right? But it's interesting that now that we have a PvE server and we see the same thing happening this time around, I think that a big part of it too is that it's just content that's lackluster. I mean, we got some new things, we got some cool new things, but it's not the kind of stuff that's going to keep people going, and it's not emergent gameplay. It's just something new to do for a few weeks while you test out a patch, and then when it starts degrading again, go back to other games.
All right. Sounds like Dimes has got a comment on that.
So what we know about the PvE server this go around was it's a test, right? So do we feel that there should be more content on that server right now, as opposed to them testing to see if the game even works in some capacity as a PvE style like that?
I think a better test would be to compare it in the way that they, I guess the motivation, at least what they seem to communicate to us initially with looking at, how many players made it out of tier 1, how long were they playing, right? Compare that to the PvE server now, see where people, what the differences are, because in the long run, it seems to me, at least, just by going on Steam charts, it's the same decline over time. It's the same player loss. But the attempt that they made with the PvE server, there's something lacking there, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say like, do away with that server, but get deeper into what is driving people away, and that's harder to do than just measuring based on statistics that you can find in game. That really requires community engagement and figuring out like what the fuck people want and why people are leaving.
Understood. Harms had a comment on this.
Regarding what Dime said about asking if there should be more content on the PvE server, I feel that's a little bit irrelevant considering there is no more content to add to it. It's got everything that Bossa has right now.
Understood.
Fair.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's hear from Vlashko. Vlashko, can I have your answer on question 2? What is the worst problem with Worlds Adrift right now?
So similar to what Harms and Snappy and Dimes, well, pretty much what everyone said, and to some extent Saramore. I agree with Saramore, by the way. To dive a little bit deeper into that would be that we see a lot of like quick band-aid fixes that don't really target the root of certain issues, and then these add more issues. And then there's a lot of...
Do we have an example on that? Like, could you give an example of that?
Okay, so for instance, when a ship logs in, if there's another ship next to it, the ship that logged in will be pushed in either up or down, depending on where the already logged in ship is.
Okay.
Careful.
Which, for instance, No, I'm not going to be careful. I already posted a video about this.
Okay, no problem then.
Oh no! Oh no! Is this a exploit? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, let's hear it. No, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
And so basically, if you were to log out a ship below an island, have another ship underneath it, wait for it to log out, and then you log back in, your ship will get pushed up into an island. And that was originally fixed due to something that Atreides and Vexus had encountered when a ship logged in, and they basically got entangled and problems ensued. And in regards to
You cut out there. In regards to?
yeah, sorry. In regards to why I think the game has suffered in terms of player population, specifically population, it's because there is no game loop. There is no, other than, you know, on the PvE server, once you finish exploring everything, that's it. I'm done with the game. Alright? However, if on the PvP server, after the player numbers have dwindled, you basically see no one. And you spend hours searching, and more or less you see no one. You know, there's about 200 people online right now, or whatever. And there needs to be something to bring these people together, you know? Something to fight over.
All right, fair enough. Understood.
Random chaos and harmony.
All right, very good. So let's hear from Dimes. What do you think is what are the worst problems facing Worlds Adrift at the moment?
Some of the major ones in game to me are mainly bugs and attitudes. I see a lot of sourness from both sides of the field, whether it's someone that's all for PvP or it's someone that prefers a more PvE/hybrid method. We've as my crew, the Engine Gang, we've run into people that have been very compliant with a stick up whenever we do it, and we've run into people that will call us every name under the sun simply because we have better equipment than them. That all kind of ties into the attitude. As far as bugs and things of that the black loading circle, to me, I feel personally it's worse than how loading used to be, but that might just be personal preference, I guess.
No, it definitely is immersion breaking. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's actually insane. Oh, they're to the right. Let's turn slightly right. Oh, never mind. We went a full 180 because I locked up. Great. Just stuff like that. As far as player population goes, I would say it's a lot of it can come from people with can come from lack of content. I would also say a large portion of it can come from people misinterpreting how sandboxes, quote unquote, should be played. Like, everybody's going to play it the way they want to, whether it's Sarah Moore doing his whole bloodthirsty pirate thing, or it's someone that wants to just design boats. Everybody's going to play it differently.
Fair enough.
And reputation, I would say diminishing. I would say for Bossa, at least, there have been some moments where they've backpedaled on certain viewpoints that shouldn't have been a thing in the first place, in my opinion. One of them was the big duping issue that had occurred last year when they took the stance of and then there was a big community outcry, and they said, okay, look, we didn't really mean that. We really meant that you shouldn't do it. It was a lot of misinterpretation. If they had just come forward with how they honestly felt about it, I feel like that wouldn't have really happened, and they wouldn't have lost as much reputation as they did at that point. As far as nowadays, I can't really think of too many instances where I've, kind of looked down on their decision making. It's just more of a that's neat. I'm glad we're in early access so we can see how this goes. That's about what I have to say on everything.
All right. Fair enough. So on this question, we're going to have Shade wrap up on this. What are the worst problems facing Worlds Adrift right now, Shade?
The worst problem facing Worlds Adrift right now is that the game is unfinished.
Okay.
Here.
That obviously the game has suffered in terms of player population because there's no game loop because the game is unfinished. As for reputation, people expect it's human nature to expect the game to develop along the lines that you want it to develop on. So that's not I'm not criticizing anyone for feeling that way, but the developer has to develop it as they can. I have a fair amount of confidence that they will eventually get there, but they are slow for a variety of reasons, and that's frustrating.
Understood. Thank you very much. All right. So, were there any further comments, or does anybody want to interject anything before we get to our last question here? All right. Looks like we're right on to question 3. What are the exact things that need to happen to make World Adrift successful in the future? What changes should be prioritized? So we're going to start with Machine Maker.
Okay, well, I forget exactly who said that at some point they made the change from marketing towards PvP players towards marketing towards more PvE players, but I think they need to pick one. I think developing separately for like 2 different types of players is a massive waste of resources. I think they need to pick one and kind of focus on that one more than just like kind of have go back and forth between like a PvE content update that will make all the PvP players like, well, what the hell, we didn't get anything here, and then like a performance update that doesn't add anything for the PvE players. So I think they need to pick a side and kind of focus on that player base, because they're both large, but I think developing towards 2 is just going to make everybody mad.
Just make sure you pick the PvP side.
Right. Okay. Snappy, let's hear from you now.
Yeah, to go along kind of the same lines. I mean, I think that really Bossa kind of just need to take a stand, and that goes for a variety of things, like vision and direction. Whether that means obviously they need to communicate more clearly, what their vision is, so that they can draw the player base, that they want to see in the future. And I think that it also entails listening to other people. At the very least, just like pick one of those things, whether you're taking community advice, communicate that you're listening to people, right? Communicate that people are being heard. And if you're not going to do that, then be more communicative about what the actual direction of the game is, and make that happen. Don't leave it to, well, this is coming soon, like Bossa Soon TM. And I think that it means taking a stand on their own policies and things like that, because I mean, we've had over the last year, I don't even know how many different cases of big exploits, particularly duping and things like that, where it's just like, well, what the hell are you doing about it, boss? Or like, why are we waiting this long? Because it's clearly a problem. I think that taking a stand on both of those 2 things needs to happen to a greater degree that it has thus far. I think that regular small fixes would be a better route to go than kind of just piling everything into these maybe once a month, once every month and a half or so, big updates. Do hot fixes, do them more regularly. We've had a couple in the past few weeks, but do them more. When something pops up and it's pushing people away, like, take hold of that and fix that so that you don't keep pushing people away. And I think that the last thing is meaningful content, particularly territory control, things that bring about that emergent gameplay, things that do close that gameplay loop and give people reason to keep playing through all the bugs, through the early access bullshit, and keep people engaged with the community, even if they aren't actively playing.
Fair enough. All right. So let's bring it to Vloshko. Vloshko, what exact things need to happen here?
Yeah, can we skip to someone else for a sec? I'm still thinking.
All right, fair enough. How about Harms?
All right. This is not going to be a popular opinion, and I want to preface this by saying I am not saying this to be disrespectful to anyone. That being said, this is going to be disrespectful, and there's no polite way to say it. The best thing that Bossa could do to help Worlds Adrift is to sell it to a company that's better suited to take on a project of this size. In my opinion, Bossa has thus far proven that they do not have the manpower, talent, or leadership to make Worlds Adrift what it can be, what it was promised to be, and what the community wants it to be. That being said, assuming Bossa is not going to sell the Worlds Adrift because some random guy on the internet with no business running or no experience running a business said they should, the next best thing they could do was communicate with their damn community.
All right, man. Ouch. Okay, so let's.
I said it wouldn't be a popular opinion. I did.
Oh,
but
reality is harsh sometimes.
It is.
That was hard to hear. All right,
eat another piece of pizza to make myself feel better after that.
Okay, so let's bring it over to Med. Hey, all right, so Med unit, what needs to happen?
I'd have to side with Snappy as well. Server network fixes and close the gameplay loop for player retention. Give me a reason to come play that isn't just building another ship or just roaming around trying to find people to shoot. There's got to be another reason to play.
Got it. All right. Shade, let's hear from you next.
Well, given my answer to question number 2, question number 3 is pretty simple. They need to finish the game.
Yep.
And so they don't have the luxury. I mean, as Harms rightly pointed out, they are not doing this particularly well relative to their community expectations. But I figured out long ago that people available to do something aren't necessarily always the best people to be doing it. They are the ones available, so they are the ones doing it. If the industry supported a bigger risk like this, then maybe a bigger company would have taken it on. But as it is, it's an extremely risky plan that they have. And I don't see a AAA company saying, yeah, we'll take that risk. So they need to finish it, and they'll do it as they can, not necessarily as we want them to. And I think it's important to remember that, well, I think it's unrealistic to expect each patch to be completely balanced. They can't make a complete game out of each patch. So I think they have a long-term point of view where they're trying to get it so that the game eventually works really well, but they can't put the effort into making each update work really super well.
Understood. All right, Harms, you had a comment?
Yeah, you said Shade said that they'll be doing it how they can, not necessarily how we want them to. And if that's the case, it's completely understandable, but they need to clarify that because this community built game isn't feeling community built. And if that's, if that's how it's going to be, no problem. But you have people coming up on the forums every day with new ideas how to do it and then quitting because Bossa doesn't seem to give a shit about those ideas. So if that's how they need to do it, fine. Just tell people.
All right, understood. All right, so let's hear from Dimes next.
I mean, for me, it's really simple. In my opinion, optimization and content. Engine Gang, we haven't played for what, Shade? 3-4 months before this wipe.
Yeah, it was a long break.
Yeah, we took a break just because optimization was going to shit and the content just wasn't there as much as we wanted it to. We decided to give it another run this wipe, and even now, like, I feel like optimization has gotten worse in certain aspects. And I don't know about you, man. I'm good. I'm good on waiting until, something gets better. Like, I love the game a lot, but without that optimization, and don't get me wrong, a lot of the visual stuff they added, like, the ability to make clothes and stuff, I think that's neat. I think that's great. The captain's chair is, to me, awesome. Like, I thought that was great to actually have chairs finally. But we really need, some content and optimization to truly sink our teeth into. Another big thing that's going to make the game, really successful would be publicity. Like, they've basically had multiple high-end streamers that have played the game and not lasted more than a month because it's something they're not used to having to learn as much as they have to in this game. So possibly putting their publicity somewhere else besides on streamers where they're like, oh, this guy has 300,000 followers. Maybe he'll make the game look. Because most of the time, even those streamers, if you look in their chat, the only people that were giving them actual advice, Worlds Adrift players.
All right, good to know. Vlashko, you ready for us?
Yep.
All right. What are your thoughts? What are the exact things that need to happen to bring back this game's population and its reputation?
Well, I have 2 views on this. The first, none of you are gonna like. And that is
Hold on, let me grab my piece of pizza really quick.
All right.
All right, I'm ready.
Loins girded. We're ready for you, man.
So the first would be we need to remember that larger games that were more successful and continue to be successful were in pre-production and never saw light of day for like 6 or 7 years, okay? Whereas what Boss has done has, they've shown the game, and we're still in that 6 or 7 year period. So everyone should vastly lower their expectations. They're not disappointed, and things have gotten better sometimes. So that would be the first bit.
Okay.
And then the second version of that is
Yes.
yes. Is they
He's the
need
master of
to
suspense.
they need to finish the gameplay loop, as many of the others have said, and lessen the absurd RNG, give more details for more players, because at the moment the maximum number of players that were on today, for instance, I think it was like 303, and though that's like the number of players that are going to be heavily invested in science and the subtleties as well as the intricacies of the game in its current stage. And that's not for everyone, especially in this day and age, and that turns a lot of players off from it.
So to summarize, first of all, you said that the game is this game has been in development. I mean, we've had access to the game since the very, very early stages of its development, and the really great games typically have been in development for years before they saw the light of day. You said,
correct.
And then I guess you're saying that that the end game, like toward the end, the game becomes very, very niche. Like there's just not that much of an audience.
No.
Or no?
No.
Okay. Could you clarify that then?
Yeah. So at any stage in the game, even from the first beginning and going through and crafting things, building a ship, whatever, there's so much that you need to know. It's kind of like D&D Advanced, right? And there's nothing there to explain to the players except for going through trial and error, and most of the people who would be down to play this game just want to shoot shit.
I can see that argument there. There's a tutorial now, and it sucks.
God,
and
suck.
If it was any longer, it would suck that much more. And it still doesn't explain everything someone needs to know to actually get started.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. So, all right. So with that,
and then
let's
hold on one sec.
Okay.
And then as far as the changes that should be prioritized, definitely they need to, once again, I'm going to reiterate some things, and that is focus on which player group is most important to them. And if they are going to continue to go down the path of, I guess, attempting to cater to both PvE and PvP, then they need to do their best to balance it, because you really don't want to piss off both of the groups.
Right, then who do we have left? All right, so we're going to wrap this up. So, Sarah Moore. All right, so what are the exact things that need to happen to make Worlds Adrift successful in the future? What changes should be prioritized?
All right, so you got three things. You got the marketing. I'm not a marketeer. I don't know how to fix that. Either way, make people know about the game, because barely anybody does. Like, if I ask a random person in a game, hey, you ever played Worlds Adrift? You heard that game? No fucking clue. Haven't even heard of it. Haven't even heard a whisper. Haven't even heard, like, oh yeah, it has something to do with, like, ships in the sky. Nope, no clue.
Oh, shit.
And, yeah, it's okay. Secondly, the territory control. Absolutely. There needs to be a reason for people to come together, because right now you're just kind of arbitrarily flying around for no reason. And like, you're just deciding on a whim. Okay, I guess I'm going to rob this guy. I guess I'm going to shoot this guy. I guess I'm just going to talk to this guy. But there's no impetus behind it, if that's a word. Freeport Osiris is a great example of what happens when there's a simulated version of territory control. You have a bunch of people fighting over something genuinely. You have something to care about. You have narratives that are born out of it. It becomes this engaging experience where there's a reason to go somewhere and interact with people, besides just like, oh, I guess I'm going to do it because I'm bored. You know, there's actually like something underneath that. Thirdly, and lastly, is just a little gameplay mechanic thing that I was talking to the Doc Freeman guy with on the WA Discord. And it's like, so he was talking about a thing where you get pinged. It's like an airdrop, basically, in Worlds Adrift. You get pinged. There's a place somewhere on the map where something is going to spawn, some MacGuffin, and you can go there and defend it for a while and get a unique ship part, a one-of-a-kind that you'd only get and be able to place once, not like a blueprint where you can make them forever, and you can stick that shit on there. It'd be really fucking good, like the top of the top, above tier 4 or whatever. And a bunch of people would come and gather around that thing, fight for it, get it, and then you have, if you win, like an item that is unique to you completely. If you get blown up, it's destroyed, it's gone forever, unless you can go and, you know, pull off the rigmarole again. And that sort of thing, having like an item or a set of items that you can strive for that will put you, you know, above the standard for, you know, everybody who's tier 4 has the same shit over and over again, and you can make it forever. The blueprints are boring. If you have a roguelike scenario like that, where you can get one-of-a-kind parts and then possibly lose them, you have something to hold on to. You have something you care about. Something that if you lose, it's going to hurt. It's compelling. It's like DayZ. It's like Rust. It's like you losing your whole fucking base and all that. You are set the fuck back, and it gives you life. Gives the game life. Less stagnant. Less stale. I'm kind of raving now, but
actually, if I can add on to what Sarah Moore was saying for a second there, and also add on to what I said before about RNG, is at the moment we kind of have you know, the slot machines, right? And so we get that very brief moment of, ooh, I got something special, but that special thing doesn't carry any weight to it. And so if you actually have to put in work to obtain something of extreme value, you know, it makes you feel rewarded. It makes you feel as though all the effort you have put in up until this point was meaningful.
Fair enough. All right, Harms, you had something to say on this too, didn't you?
Yeah, two things. First of all, the discussion regarding that random, you know, one-of-a-kind part that drops. That's something I talked to Doc about, and Doc talked to you about, but I want to just shout out to the original thought of that. That was Ghoster on the forums. He threw that out, and I fucking loved it. I just want to say I love that idea. I think it's the best ever. Other than that, territory control, not right now. I think it's a terrible idea right now. We don't have enough people. Simple fact is if you're on any set of territory at all right now, if you exist within the game, that's territory I want to control because I want to fight you. So I don't think territory control is going to add anything to the game at this moment in time because we don't have a large enough player base for people to hold and need to argue over spaces. There's so much space and so few people.
Got it. All right. And Dimes, you had something on this?
Yeah. So with territory control, I thought one of the original plans that they were going to do is like certain areas would have certain resources. So are you saying that you don't feel territory control would be a thing to have when we have, like, say at the beginning of a wipe where we have, roughly 1,400 to 2,000 people playing? You don't think with those kind of numbers, territory control would be a good idea?
Quite possibly it could with those numbers. For the special resources, that I don't know about. I haven't really heard anything about that, but I don't know what that would really apply to right now. Yeah, 2,000 people on a single server, absolutely. 200 on 2 servers, not at all.
All right. And Snappy, you had something to add to this?
Yeah, it was in response to the same thing, because I pretty firmly believe that, like, if we did, first of all, I think that a lot of people are waiting for territory control, and I think that we would see a huge boom in the population. Maybe not to the extent that we had immediately after early access, but maybe the month after that, where we were still seeing, well over 1,000 people playing a day. I think that territory control would absolutely do that, and I think that that is a viable number to make it work, right? And I also think that it would be something where, even if we didn't see, the most gracious of numbers, because maybe that is a stretch. Maybe I'm overestimating, but I think that it would be a different type of combat that would be more sustainable, or it would be more appealing to people. In a more sustainable sense. I don't think that we would see the same kind of drop off that we see after every wipe. I don't think we would see that. I think it would be at the very least a slower decline.
Fair enough. And Harms, you had one more thing.
Yes, last thing. With the current amount of people we have playing, I think Atreides actually came up with a fantastic idea to get people together, and that would be to make Marauders compasses all point to the same place. So people would actually be chasing each other to them and then fighting over what's in them. I think that's a much better short-term solution for the current player base before adding something larger and massive for a larger player base.
I do feel there has to be something worthwhile in the Marauders chest first,
Absolutely.
Now, don't get me wrong, slug sauce and alternative meat paste recipes are actually great. Like, that stuff's awesome, but
clothes are not content.
I agree.
Fair enough. All right. So, do we have any closing comments before we end off this thing?
How the hell did you choose all these ragtag people for this?
Well, what I was looking for, I was specifically looking for people who had as different viewpoints as possible. I was looking for, something that wouldn't be an echo chamber. That was what I was trying to build.
A few people with the right viewpoints, a few people with the wrong viewpoints.
Wow.
I would just like
All
to
these
say
horrible opinions.
I would just like to say
those all
I am sorry to any boss employees I offended with my statement. I truly do believe in what I said. It wasn't just something to try and urge you to get off your asses. I'm very serious. If someone else made a copy of this game, I'd play that one instead.
Oof.
Ouch.
Oof.
You know what? I actually would too.
Okay, well, that hurts. I think that's where we're gonna end off, guys. Thank you everybody for coming. This has been I've learned a lot. This has been very enlightening for me. And
yeah.
Oh my, what do we got?
Can you answer question number 3?
Do you want me to answer question number 3?
Yeah, come on, guys. Don't you want to hear him answer?
You've done a good job of putting this all together, but you haven't actually shared your perspective, and I think that would be
do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Go 1 through 3, man.
All right, so all right, fair enough. So what do I want from Worlds Adrift? What kind of gameplay experience am I looking for? When I came into Worlds Adrift in the first place, I just wanted to have I don't know. You ever watch a buddy cop movie and go, yeah, I want to be buddies with somebody like that, right? You watch Firefly and go, I want to be on that crew, I want to be, bridge crew on the Starship Enterprise or whatever. It doesn't matter. I wanted that sort of that group thing going on, and I wanted to be the captain. That's what I wanted from Worlds Adrift, and I I've gotten that to a degree, and but I also wanted to be able to do that in a lot of different scenarios, like, you know, desperate battle for survival. Fuck yeah. What if I wanted to pull together a coalition to people and have some massive, huge battle with, you know, hundreds of warships in the same space? I mean, I thought that eventually World's Drift would kind of get to that point, and it hasn't really gotten there. You can't have a battle with more than 5 or 6.
Yeah, the cover art lies.
Yeah. So so that's what I wanted. I that was kind of my dream for the future of World's Drift. The worst problems with World's Drift, it's simply the fact that the game loses its appeal to too many players after just that tail, that drop off after an update is just too sharp. And I don't really have personally any decent solutions for it. I don't know what to do about it. Even I lose interest after a little while. You know, what happens when we get a new wipe? I go to work trying to build a new map with Cardinal Guild, and I crew up, but I try to get into some fights before the population drops off all to nothing. And I try to back up my people doing their various things. I've got Med, you know, he flies around, he does his transport pilot thing. Med's the guy if you want anything transported anywhere, or if you want to get from one end of the map to the other. He is the guy for it, right? And I just like, you know, backing him up and kind of advertising him a little bit and crewing up with him sometimes. And then, but the exact things that need to happen to make Worlds Adrift successful, well, I think it comes down to just about 3 things. Number one, bosses' communication to the players needs to be very, very clear. They need to be very, very genuine and open with their players as to what they're doing and thinking on a day-to-day basis. I think that major systems for the game, not content so much, but systems that create that emergent content, need to go into the game as quickly as possible, even as messily as possible. Because, you know, if it runs bad, fine, whatever. At least we're seeing the game change, and we're seeing the future of the game come in. You know, and when they're testing these things in house, or even when it's nothing but an idea on a whiteboard, if they'd be telling us about these things at that stage, and then showing us the development, and actually really openly showing, like, okay, well, this is what we're thinking for, this is how we're thinking we're going to change the way these systems work, that'd help.
And do you mean that in such a way that it'd kind of be directing the player's focus on feedback and suggestions for specific topics, or? Yeah,
sure. Like, what do the devs actually think the problems of the game are right now? I don't know. Do you know? Does anybody know? They're not talking, man. We've got no fucking idea. So if the devs were saying to us, well, here's the problem we're trying to solve right now, they'd get solutions out the ears. They'd hear from the entire community, but they're not saying. So that the systems need to be added to the game. Bosses' communication needs to be good enough that we actually understand what they're doing and thinking. And finally, the lowest priority item on those things, I think, is fixing performance, getting the game to actually work right with all these systems that they're putting in, and making it possible for, you know, large multi-ship battles to actually be a thing. That's got to come in.
So you feel optimization is lowest on the totem pole?
Well, of those 3 things, which I think are the most important things that need to change, that's the least important of the 3, but it's still very important, as I would say.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel if I try to show someone a garbage pail fire and I say jump in, they're probably going to say not until that fire's put out.
You've never been to Burning Man, clearly.
I've been twice.
Oh, well, shit.
That's a different concept of burning. Like, let's be real here.
All right.
I agree with a lot of what you just said. I really do.
Great. I wasn't planning, by the way. I was planning on just moderating. I didn't want to put my ideas out there, but there.
Yeah, well, we got you, Keen.
Yeah, you got me. All right. So at that point, are we ready to wrap up, or is there any more? Are there any more comments?
I think we need approval on that garbage pail pin or on that dumpster pin I just posted in general, on if that should be our new
Oh yeah, if
It's
you would like to
beautiful.
join the new
Send me
Worlds
one.
Drift Discord, please come
that's the
by
new,
to Dumpster Fire.
The new unofficial
is-
Worlds of Drift. All right.
That's adorable. All right. Good. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing, but this was really just planned as a one-off. But thank you for coming. And if anything major changes in the community, you may get the call again.
Sounds
So,
fun with
cool.
me. I'm free every weekend.
I appreciate you hosting this.
Yeah, thank you for pulling it together, man.
Gotta
not a-
say some stuff that I've really been
Good
wanting
moderating.
Yeah, it was
All
a
right.
pleasure and fun.
I'm very glad everybody had fun. All right. And good night. Cut.